The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their massive ships traveled between the stars, keeping order with iron fists and powerful weapons. No one dared to challenge them. No one even thought about it anymore. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator's Wrath. The ship was 5 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Like all Zephyrians, Vextar had dark blue skin and 4 arms. His yellow eyes watched the star maps with pride. 847 star systems bowed to his empire. Today would be no different from any other day. Admiral called Scanner Technician Krillith from his station. I'm getting strange readings from Sector 779. Vextar barely looked up. Define strange. Krillith's claws clicked nervously on his controls. Space-time distortions near the helix. Nebula, something big is happening out there. The Admiral finally turned his attention to the young technician. Space-time distortions were serious business. The last time they had detected anything like this, an entire solar system had collapsed into a black hole. Put it on the main screen, Vextar ordered. The massive display showed the Helix Nebula, a swirling cloud of gas and dust that had been empty space for centuries. But now something was different. Reality itself seemed to be bending and twisting like water in a storm. Magnify, Vextar said. The image grew larger. The distortions were getting stronger. Whatever was causing them was getting closer to normal, space. Krillith's readings showed energy levels that shouldn't exist. Then it happened. Space tore open like fabric being ripped apart. A brilliant flash of light filled the screen. When it faded, something impossible floated in the void where empty space had been moments before. A ship. But this wasn't like any ship in the Imperial database. Zephyrian vessels were built for intimidation, massive, angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. This ship was different. It was sleek and smooth, like a hunting animal frozen in metal. Its hull gleamed with materials that reflected light in ways that hurt to look at. Run a full scan, Vextar commanded. Krillith's hands flew over his controls. Admiral, the readings don't make sense. The hull appears to be made of metals we can't identify. Energy signatures are completely unknown. And, sir, he paused, his voice dropping to a whisper. The weapon systems don't match anything in our records. Vextar studied the mysterious vessel. It was about a mile long, much smaller than his, dreadnought. But something about it made his skin crawl. The ship seemed to absorb their scanner beams instead of reflecting them properly. Any response to our scanning? He asked. None, sir. The ship is completely silent. No communications, no identification signals, nothing. The Admiral made his decision. For 3,000 years, the Empire had dealt with unknown ships the same way. Approach with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and crush any resistance. Send. Captain Zeklon's squadron to investigate, Vextar ordered. 12 ships should be more than enough to handle one primitive vessel. Captain Zeklon received his orders with the confidence of a warrior who had never lost a battle. His squadron consisted of 12 heavy cruisers, each one capable of destroying a small moon. As they approached the strange ship, Zeklon felt the familiar excitement of an easy victory. Attention, unknown vessel, he broadcast on all frequencies. You have entered Imperial space without permission. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction. The alien ship remained silent. Zeklon waited exactly 60 seconds, as Imperial protocol demanded. When no response came, he smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. They want to do this the hard way, he told his crew. Target their engines. Let's disable them first and ask questions later. His ships moved into attack formation, a perfect circle that had trapped thousands of enemy vessels over the centuries. The unknown ship sat in the center like prey in a web. Fire warning shots, Zeklon commanded. 12 plasma cannons discharged at once, sending bolts of superheated energy toward the mysterious vessel. The shots were carefully aimed to miss by only a few hundred meters, close enough to show serious intent without causing damage. The energy bolts struck something invisible around the alien ship and simply vanished. Zeklon blinked in surprise. What happened to our shots? His weapons officer checked his readings twice before answering. Sir, they appear to have been absorbed. Absorbed? By what? Unknown, Captain. There's no visible shielding technology, but our plasma bolts just disappeared. For the first time in his military career, Captain Zeklon felt a flicker of uncertainty, but he pushed it down. The Empire had faced strange technologies before. Overwhelming firepower always won in the end. All ships, target the alien vessel's center mass. Full power, fire when ready. This time, the plasma cannons charged to maximum power. Each shot could punch through a mountain. 12 of them firing together could crack a small asteroid in half. The Bob energy beams struck the alien ship simultaneously and vanished completely. Captain, his weapons officer called out, his voice shaking. The alien vessel's energy readings just increased by 40%. Zeklon stared at his screens. It was impossible. Their most powerful weapons had not only failed to damage the enemy ship, they had somehow made it stronger. Sir, his communications officer interrupted, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel. Put it through. A voice spoke in perfect Zephyrian, though the accent was strange and the tone was calm, almost bored. You fired first. Stand down. Before Zeklon could respond, something small and fast shot out from the alien ship. His sensors tracked it for less than a second before it struck his flagship. The projectile punched through his shields as if they weren't there. It tore through his armor plating like paper. It passed completely through his ship from bow to stern, leaving a perfectly round hole 3 feet wide, no explosion, no secondary damage. Just a clean hole that went through every deck, every bulkhead, every system in its path. Emergency alarms screamed as atmosphere rushed out into space. His ship began to lose power as critical systems failed. In 5 seconds, a single shot from the alien vessel had reduced his mighty warship to a helpless wreck. All ships! Emergency withdrawal! Zeklon screamed into his communicator. Return to the fleet immediately! His remaining 11 ships broke formation and fled as fast as their engines could carry them. Behind them, the mysterious alien vessel sat motionless in space, waiting like a patient predator. Admiral Vexitar watched the retreat with growing horror. 12 Imperial warships had been sent to capture one unknown vessel. 11 had returned. In full flight, and the 12th was broadcasting emergency signals as it limped home with a hole punched clean through it. Get me a full report from Captain Zeklon, Vexitar ordered, and send a priority message to Imperial Command. We have a problem. As his communication officers worked frantically, Vexitar stared at the image of the alien ship on his main screen. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the apex predator of the galaxy. Today, they had met something that made their most powerful weapons look like toys. The game had changed, and Admiral Vexitar wasn't sure his empire was ready for whatever came next. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the UES Indomitable, watching 12 alien ships retreat into the distance. Her dark hair was pulled back in a military bun, and her brown eyes remained calm despite the situation. Around her, the bridge buzzed with quiet activity as her crew analyzed what had just happened. Well, that was interesting, said Commander Rodriguez from the tactical station. He was a tall man with graying hair and scars on his hands from years of military service. They really thought those plasma bolts would hurt us. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious. We're not here to start a war, Rodriguez. We're lost, remember? It had been 18 months since the Indomitable had attempted an experimental faster-than-light jump. The new drive system was supposed to cut travel time between Earth and the outer colonies by 70%. Instead, something had gone wrong during the test flight. Very wrong. Space had twisted around them like a pretzel. The ship's computers had shown readings that defied physics. When everything finally stopped spinning, they found themselves in a completely unknown part of the galaxy, thousands of light years from Earth. Dr. Okafor, the ship's chief science officer, had been working for months to understand what happened. The brilliant woman from Nigeria had 3 degrees in theoretical physics, but even she couldn't explain how their experimental drive had thrown them so far from home. "Captain," called Lieutenant Park from the communications station. "I'm picking up massive amounts of radio chatter from the alien fleet. The computer is trying to translate, but their language is complex." Sarah walked over to Park's station. The young Korean-American officer was one of the best linguists in the Earth fleet. If anyone could make sense of alien communications, it was her. "What are they saying?" Sarah asked. Park frowned at her screen. "From what I can understand, they're calling us impossible and unknown technology. They seem very upset that their weapons didn't work. Can you translate our response?" "Already working on it, Captain. The computer has identified their basic language structure. I should be able to send a message they can understand." Sarah considered their options. The Indomitable was alone in hostile territory, outnumbered by millions. These aliens clearly controlled a large part of this galaxy, and they didn't seem friendly to strangers. But humans had one advantage that had served them well throughout history. They learned fast. "Rodriguez, what's your assessment of their military capabilities?" Sarah asked. The tactical officer pulled up his analysis on the main screen. "Primitive but powerful, Captain. Their ships are big and heavily armed, but they rely on brute force rather than strategy. Their formation was textbook, probably unchanged for centuries. No creativity, no adaptation." Sarah studied the data. The alien ships were indeed massive, some of them 5 times larger than the Indomitable. But size wasn't everything. Human military doctrine had evolved through countless wars on Earth, where survival depended on being smarter, faster, and more adaptable than the enemy. "What about their technology?" she asked. Dr. Okafor looked up from her science station. The tall woman adjusted her glasses before speaking. "Their weapons are plasma-based, probably very effective against conventional armor. But our adaptive shielding is designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks. The more they shoot at us, the stronger our defenses become. And their ships? Heavy armor, powerful engines, but no signs of advanced defensive systems. I don't think they've ever faced an enemy that could actually threaten them." Sarah nodded. That matched what she was thinking. These aliens had probably been the dominant power in this part of the galaxy for so long that they'd grown complacent. They'd never needed to innovate or adapt because nothing had ever challenged them. Until now. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called. "Out." "The alien fleet is regrouping. They're calling in reinforcements." Sarah wasn't surprised. Bullies always called for backup when they met someone who could fight back. "How many ships are we talking about?" she asked. Park listened to the alien communications for a moment. "From what I can translate, they're assembling something called Battle Group Omega. Sounds like at least 200 ships, possibly more." Rodriguez whistled softly. 200 to 1. Those aren't good odds." "They are if the one is us," Sarah replied calmly. "Dr. Okafor, how are our weapon systems?" "Fully operational, Captain. The quantum torpedoes are charged, plasma cannons are online, and the kinetic railgun has plenty of ammunition." Sarah walked back to her command chair, thinking carefully. They had 3 options: run, hide, or fight. Running would only delay the inevitable. These aliens controlled the local space lanes, and the Indomitable would eventually be found. Hiding was impossible with so many enemy ships searching for them. That left fighting. "Rodriguez, I want you to analyze their fleet composition. Look for weaknesses we can exploit." "Already on it, Captain. Their command ships are larger and more heavily armed, but they're also slower and less maneuverable. If we can take out their leadership early, the rest might fall into chaos." Dr. Okafor, what's the status of our experimental systems? The science officer smiled for the first time since the aliens appeared. The micro-jump drive is working perfectly. We can teleport short distances almost instantly. Our phase torpedoes can pass through their shields entirely. And the adaptive plasma cannons can change frequency faster than their sensors can track. Sarah felt a familiar calm settle over her. This was what she'd trained for her entire life. Command decisions under impossible pressure. The crew of the IEO Indomitable was the best Earth had to offer. Scientists, soldiers, and explorers all rolled into one. Lieutenant Park, open a channel to the alien fleet. Channel open, Captain. Sarah stood and spoke clearly into the communication system. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Indomitable. You fired on us without provocation. We responded with minimal force to protect ourselves. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend ourselves if attacked again. She paused, then added something that would confuse the aliens for years to come. We come from a place where freedom isn't granted by emperors. It's earned by those brave enough to fight for it. The response came quickly, translated by the ship's computer into English. Surrender now or be destroyed. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These were men and women who had volunteered for a dangerous experimental mission, knowing they might never see Earth again. They'd been lost in space for 18 months, but they hadn't given up hope. They were explorers, scientists, and warriors, the best humanity had to offer. Well, she said with a slight smile, I guess they want to do this the hard way. She turned to Rodriguez. Begin combat preparations. All crew to battle stations. Red lights began flashing throughout the ship as the crew prepared for war. In the weapons bay, Chief Petty Officer Martinez loaded quantum torpedoes with practiced efficiency. In engineering, Commander Kim rerouted power to the shield generators and weapons systems. Captain, Dr. Okafor called out, I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching. The alien fleet is much larger than we thought. Sarah watched the tactical display as hundreds of red dots appeared on the screen, all heading their way. Any reasonable person would be terrified. Instead, Sarah felt the familiar calm that came before battle. Rodriguez, are you ready? Weapons. Charged and targeting systems locked. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Then let's show them what humans can do when we're cornered. Admiral Vextar stood before the massive tactical display in his command center, watching 200 Imperial warships move into position around the alien vessel. Battlegroup Omega was the largest fleet he had assembled in 50 years of service. 3 dreadnoughts, 30 heavy cruisers, and over 100 support vessels, enough firepower to conquer an entire star system. Admiral, reported his fleet coordinator, all ships are in position. The alien vessel is completely surrounded. Vextar nodded with satisfaction. Whatever tricks this unknown ship possessed, it couldn't possibly stand against such overwhelming force. The Empire had used this tactic for millennia: surround the enemy, demonstrate superior numbers, and watch them surrender. Open a channel. To all ships, he commanded. Today, we face an enemy that dares to defy Imperial might. Show them what happens to those who challenge the Zephyrian Empire. On the Indomitable, Captain Chen watched the alien fleet take their positions. The tactical display showed red dots forming a perfect sphere around her ship, a classic encirclement maneuver that would work well against conventional vessels. They really like their formations, don't they? Rodriguez commented from his station. Standard Imperial doctrine, replied Dr. Okafor, who had been studying the alien military data. Surround the enemy, overwhelm with superior numbers, accept surrender. It's probably worked for them for thousands of years. Sarah smiled grimly. Too bad we didn't read their manual. She turned to address her crew. All hands, this is the captain. We're outnumbered 200 to 1 by an enemy that has never lost a battle. They expect us to surrender or die trying to fight their way. Today we're going to teach them something new. In the engineering section, Commander Kim had rerouted power from non-essential systems to weapons and shields. The ship's experimental fusion reactors hummed with barely contained energy. "Captain," called Chief Martinez from the weapons bay. "All torpedo tubes loaded. Quantum warheads armed and ready. Rodriguez, target their command ships first. We need to break their coordination before they can organize properly." The tactical officer's hands flew over his controls. "Target locks acquired on 3 dreadnoughts and 12 command cruisers. Firing solution ready. Fire when ready." The first surprise came when the Indomitable attacked in all directions at once. Instead of trying to break through the encirclement at one point, Sarah had decided to engage the entire enemy fleet simultaneously. Quantum torpedoes phased through normal space, passing through the alien shields as if they didn't exist. The warheads materialized inside enemy hulls and detonated, tearing the massive ships apart from within. At the same time, the ship's plasma cannons began firing in rapid succession. But these weren't ordinary energy weapons. The adaptive plasma system changed frequency with each shot, making it impossible for enemy shields to adjust. Each blast burned through armor that had withstood centuries of conventional warfare. "Micro-jump. In 3 seconds," Rodriguez announced. The Indomitable vanished from the center of the alien formation and reappeared behind one of the dreadnoughts. Before the massive ship could turn to face this new threat, 3 quantum torpedoes struck its engine section. The dreadnought's rear half simply disappeared in a brilliant flash of light. "Jump again," Sarah ordered. The human ship teleported to a new position, appearing above a cluster of enemy cruisers. Kinetic railgun rounds, accelerated to 15% of light speed, punched through their hulls like bullets through paper. Admiral Vextar watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The alien ship moved like nothing he had ever seen, appearing and disappearing faster than his sensors could track. His most powerful vessels were being torn apart by weapons that seemed to ignore every law of physics he knew. "All ships, focus fire on the alien vessel," he screamed into his communicator. The remaining Imperial ships turned their weapons toward the Indomitable, filling space with plasma bolts and missile barrages. But the human ship's adaptive shielding absorbed the energy attacks, growing stronger with each hit. The missiles were intercepted by point defense systems that tracked hundreds of targets simultaneously. "Captain," Dr. Okafor reported, "our shields are at 130% power. Their weapons are actually helping us." Sarah nodded. Human military technology had been designed for survival in a hostile universe. Every system had backups. Every weapon was designed to adapt to new threats. Every defense was built to turn enemy attacks into advantages. "Rodriguez, status report." The tactical officer checked his displays. 43 enemy ships destroyed, 15 severely damaged. No damage to us yet. Time for something special. Target their largest dreadnought with a full kinetic barrage. The Indomitable's main railgun charged to maximum power. The weapon was designed to punch through asteroid armor for mining operations, but it worked just as well against enemy ships. A tungsten rod weighing 50 tons shot out at nearly light speed. The projectile struck the dreadnought's forward hull and kept going, tearing through deck after deck of armor and equipment. The massive ship broke in half, its 2 pieces spinning away into space. But the real shock came when the human ship's computer system began broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies. Lieutenant Park had been busy during the battle, analyzing alien communications and preparing a surprise. "Attention all Imperial forces," the translated message began. "Your weapons cannot harm us. Your tactics are predictable. Your empire is built on fear, not strength. Any ship that wishes to surrender will be allowed to leave safely." The psychological impact was immediate. Imperial crews had been taught that their empire was invincible, their technology supreme, their tactics unbeatable. Now they watched their most powerful ships being destroyed by a single enemy vessel that seemed to treat their attacks as minor annoyances. Some of the smaller ships began to retreat without orders. Their captains had never faced an enemy that could fight back effectively, and the sight of burning dreadnoughts shattered their confidence. "All ships maintain formation," Admiral Vextar commanded. "Anyone who retreats will be executed for cowardice." But fear was stronger than military discipline. More ships began to flee as the Indomitable continued its methodical destruction of the Imperial fleet. Commander Rodriguez targeted another group of cruisers. "Captain, I'm reading massive power fluctuations in their largest ship. I think their admiral is preparing some kind of superweapon." Sarah studied the tactical display. The enemy flagship was indeed charging what looked like a planet-killer beam. It was probably their final desperate attempt to destroy the human ship. "Dr. Okafor, can our shields handle that level of energy?" The science officer ran quick calculations. "Probably not, Captain. That weapon is designed to crack planets. Even our adaptive shielding has limits." "Then we don't try to stop it. Rodriguez, prepare for emergency micro-jump. When that weapon fires, I want us behind their flagship." "Understood, Captain." The Imperial superweapon discharged with enough energy to destroy a small moon. But when the beam reached the Indomitable's position, the ship was no longer there. Instead, it had teleported directly behind the flagship. "Fire everything," Sarah ordered. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, and kinetic projectiles struck the flagship simultaneously. The massive ship, weakened by the energy discharge from its own superweapon, collapsed under the assault. Admiral Vexitar's final transmission was a scream of rage and disbelief. The remaining Imperial ships fled in panic, abandoning the battlefield, to the single human vessel that had destroyed their entire battle group. Dr. Okafor looked up from her science station. "Captain, I'm detecting something interesting in the wreckage. The alien ships contain databases with star charts, fleet positions, and communications codes." Sarah smiled. "Download everything you can. It's time we learned more about our new neighbors." As the Indomitable collected data from the destroyed fleet, Sarah realized their situation had changed completely. They were no longer just lost explorers trying to find their way home. They had become players in a galactic conflict they didn't fully understand. But whatever challenges lay ahead, the crew of the Indomitable had proven something important. Humans might be outnumbered, but they were far from outmatched. News of the defeat traveled across the Zephyrian Empire faster than their fastest ships. Emperor Thulmas sat on his crystal throne in the heart of the imperial capital, reading reports that made no sense. One alien ship had destroyed battle. Group Omega, 200 of his finest warships reduced to floating scrap metal in less than an hour. The Emperor was ancient by Zephyrian standards, having ruled for 800 years. His blue skin had darkened with age, and his forearms moved slowly as he gestured for his advisors to approach. In all his centuries of rule, nothing like this had ever happened. "Explain to me," he said in a voice like grinding stone, "how one primitive vessel destroyed an entire battle group." General Korthuk, the Empire's highest military commander, stepped forward nervously. "Your Majesty, the reports are difficult to believe. The alien ship appears to possess technology far beyond our understanding." "Technology?" The Emperor's yellow eyes blazed with anger. "We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. Our weapons can crack planets. Our ships are the largest ever built. What technology could possibly threaten us?" The general showed him tactical recordings from the battle. "They can appear and disappear at will, Your Majesty. Their weapons pass through our shields completely, and their defenses grow stronger when we attack them." Emperor Thulmas watched the recordings with growing disbelief. The alien ship moved like a living thing, striking with precision and vanishing before his forces could respond. It was unlike anything in the Imperial database. "Where did they come from?" he demanded. "Unknown, Your Majesty. They appeared from nowhere near the Helix Nebula. We have no record of their species or their homeworld." The Emperor stood from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "Find their homeworld. Find their fleet. Find everything about them. And when you do, we will show them what happens to those who defy the Empire. Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Captain Chen and her crew were learning disturbing things about their new neighbors. Dr. Okafor had spent days analyzing the data recovered from the Imperial ships, and what she found painted a picture of an empire built on conquest and oppression. "Captain," she reported during the morning briefing, "the Zephyrian Empire controls 847 star systems. They've conquered dozens of intelligent species over the past 3 millennia. Sarah studied the star charts on the main display. What happened to the conquered species? Slavery, mostly. Some were wiped out entirely. Others were reduced to servant races with no rights or freedoms. Commander Rodriguez looked up from his tactical analysis. "Captain, I'm seeing massive fleet movements throughout Imperial space. They're mobilizing everything they have." "How massive?" "Over 10,000 ships, including their entire dreadnought fleet. They're also activating reserve forces that haven't been used in centuries." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. 10,000 ships against one. Even with their technological advantages, those were impossible odds. "Any idea what they're planning?" she asked. Lieutenant Park had been monitoring Imperial communications. "From what I can translate, they're conducting massive searches throughout their territory. They're looking for our homeworld. They think we're the advance guard of a larger fleet," Dr. Okafor added. "They can't conceive of a single ship operating alone." Sarah considered their options. The Empire was mobilizing for total war against an enemy they couldn't find. Eventually, their search would expand beyond Imperial space, and they might actually discover Earth. Billions of innocent humans would face the same fate as all the other species the Empire had conquered. "Dr. Okafor, any progress on figuring out how we got here?" The science officer shook her head. "I'm still working on it, Captain. The experimental drive created some kind of space-time distortion, but I can't replicate the effect. For now, we're stuck here." "Captain," Lieutenant Park interrupted, "I'm picking up a priority transmission from Imperial Command. They're ordering all forces to converge on the Cathara system." "What's at Cathara?" Park translated quickly. "It's a civilian space station. Apparently, it's been harboring refugees from Imperial oppression. The Emperor has ordered its complete destruction as an example to other systems." Sarah felt her jaw clench. Throughout human history, bullies had always targeted the innocent when they couldn't catch their real enemies. The Empire was going to murder thousands of civilians just to make a point. "How long until the Imperial fleet reaches Cathara?" she asked. Rodriguez checked the tactical data. "At their current speed, about 72 hours. Dr. Okafor looked up from her station. "Captain, Cathara Station houses over 50,000 civilians, men, women, children from a dozen different species. If the Imperial fleet attacks—" She didn't need to finish. Everyone on the bridge understood what would happen. "Set course for the Cathara system," Sarah ordered. "Captain," Commander Kim spoke up from the engineering station. "That's exactly what they want us to do. They're using those civilians as bait." Sarah turned to face her crew. She saw uncertainty in some faces, determination in others. These were good people who had signed up to explore the galaxy, not fight wars. But sometimes the universe didn't give you the choices you wanted. "You're right, Kim. It's obviously a trap. They can't beat us in open space, so they're trying to force us into a position where we have to fight on their terms." She paused, looking at each of her officers. "But we can't let them murder 50,000 innocent people just to get to us." "That's not who we are," Dr. Okafor spoke quietly. "Captain, even if we win the battle, we'll be revealing our position to the entire Imperial fleet. Every ship they have will converge on Cathara." "I know. But here's the thing about humans. We don't abandon people who need help, even when it's not smart, even when it's dangerous, even when it might get us killed." Sarah stood and addressed her entire crew over the ship's communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. In 72 hours, the Imperial fleet will attack a civilian station, full of refugees. They're using innocent people as bait to draw us into a trap. We're going to spring that trap, save those civilians, and show the Empire what happens when they threaten helpless people." She paused, then continued. "I won't lie to you. This will probably be our last battle. We'll be outnumbered thousands to one, with no chance of escape. Anyone who wants to object can speak now." The communication channel remained silent for a long moment. Then Chief Martinez's voice came through from the weapons bay. "Captain, the crew has a message for you." "Go ahead, Chief." "We didn't come this far just to watch innocents die. Let's go show these aliens why you never corner a human." Similar messages came from every section of the ship. The crew of the Indomitable had made their choice. They would rather die fighting for what was right than live with the knowledge that they could have saved innocent lives and chose not to. Sarah felt a surge of pride in her crew. This was what made humans special. Not their technology or their weapons, but their willingness to sacrifice for others. "Rodriguez, begin combat preparations. Dr. Okafor, I need everything you can tell me about Kethera Station and the surrounding space." "Already working on it, Captain. The station is located in an asteroid field, which might give us some tactical advantages." "How so?" "The asteroids will limit the Imperial fleet's ability to surround us. They'll have to approach through specific channels, which means we can predict their movements." Sarah smiled grimly. "Good. If we're going to die, let's make sure we take as many of them with us as possible." As the Indomitable changed course toward Kethara, Emperor Thulmas received confirmation that his plan was working. The alien ship was heading directly into his trap, just as he had hoped. "Your Majesty," General Korthuk reported, "the alien vessel will arrive at Kethara in approximately 70 hours. Admiral Zekmor is already in position with the 7th Fleet." The Emperor smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Excellent. This time we will be ready for their tricks. 8,000 ships should be more than enough to destroy one alien vessel, no matter what technology they possess." But as the Emperor made his plans, he had no idea what he was really dealing with. Humans had been fighting impossible odds since they first climbed down from the trees on Earth. They had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and the harsh vacuum of space itself. The crew of the Indomitable was about to remind the galaxy why humans were the most dangerous species in the universe when they had nothing left to lose. The Kethara system looked like a graveyard when the Indomitable arrived. The civilian space station floated among a field of broken asteroids, its lights flickering weakly in the darkness. Around it, 8,000 Imperial warships waited in. Perfect formation, like vultures circling dying prey. Emperor Thulmas himself had come to witness the destruction of the alien vessel. His massive flagship, the Eternal Dominion, sat at the center of the fleet like a metal mountain. The ship was 10 miles long and carried weapons that could destroy entire moons. "The alien vessel has arrived," reported Admiral Zekmor from the bridge of his command ship. "Just as you predicted, Your Majesty," the Emperor smiled with satisfaction. "Begin the attack, but leave the alien ship for last. I want them to watch as we destroy the station and everyone on it." Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the massive Imperial fleet. She had never seen so many warships in one place. The tactical display showed thousands of red dots surrounding Kethara Station like a swarm of angry insects. "Dr. Okafor, what's the status of the station?" she asked. The science officer checked her readings. 53,000. Civilians aboard, Captain. Multiple species. Humans would call them refugees fleeing Imperial oppression. Their defenses are minimal. "Rodriguez, assessment?" The tactical officer shook his head grimly. 8,000 ships, including 12 super dreadnoughts. They have enough firepower to glass a planet. This isn't a battle, Captain. It's an execution. Sarah nodded calmly. She had known this moment would come since they first encountered the Empire. Sometimes the right choice was also the impossible choice. "Dr. Okafor, I need you to work a miracle. Can you evacuate the station? Not all of them, Captain. Our emergency life support can handle maybe 5,000 people, but 50,000 is impossible. Then evacuate who you can. Rodriguez, prepare for the worst fight of our lives. But Dr. Okafor had been thinking about their situation during the journey to Cathara. As the ship's chief scientist, she had been analyzing the space-time distortions that brought them here. What she discovered changed everything. "Captain," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something about how we got here." Sarah turned to face the science officer. "Go ahead." The experimental drive didn't just move us through space, it moved us through time. We're not just visitors from another star system, we're visitors from the future. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. "How far in the future?" Sarah asked. "Based on stellar positions and radioactive decay readings, approximately 400 years. We come from a time when humanity has already discovered faster-than-light travel and found this galaxy conquered by the Zephyrian Empire." Commander Rodriguez stared at her. "You're saying we're from their future?" "More than that. I believe our arrival here is what causes humanity to eventually develop FTL technology. We're creating a stable time loop." Sarah felt her mind racing. If Dr. Okafor was right, then their presence here wasn't an accident. It was destiny. "Captain," Lieutenant Park interrupted, "the Imperial fleet is beginning their attack on the station." The main display showed plasma bolts and missiles streaming toward Cathara Station. The small defensive platforms tried to fight back, but they were overwhelmed in seconds. "All hands, battle stations," Sarah commanded. "Dr. Okafor, begin emergency evacuation of the station. Rodriguez, target their command ships." The Indomitable shot forward into the Imperial fleet like an arrow into a forest. Quantum torpedoes phased through enemy shields, striking command vessels and communication arrays. The ship's micro-jump drive allowed it to appear and disappear throughout the battlefield, hitting targets and vanishing before the enemy could respond. But this time, the Empire was ready with new tactics. They had learned from their previous defeats. "All ships, fire continuously," Emperor Thulmas ordered. "Don't try to target the alien vessel. Fill space with so much energy that it has nowhere to hide." Thousands of plasma cannons discharged simultaneously, turning the space around Cathara Station into a storm of deadly energy. The Indomitable's adaptive shields absorbed what they could, but even human technology had limits. "Shields down to 60%, Dr. Okafor reported. "We're taking more damage than we can absorb." Sarah made a desperate decision. "Rodriguez, target their superweapon." The Emperor's flagship carried a planet-killer beam designed to crack worlds. If she could, turn that weapon against the Imperial fleet itself. "Understood, Captain, but we'll have to get very close to their flagship." "Do it." The Indomitable micro-jumped directly toward the Eternal Dominion, appearing just above the massive ship's hull. Kinetic railgun rounds punched through the flagship's armor, targeting the superweapon's power systems. But instead of disabling the weapon, Sarah had a different plan. "Dr. Okafor, can you overload their superweapon?" The science officer's eyes widened as she understood. "Captain, if I destabilize their power core, the explosion will destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers. Including us? Especially us." Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These brave men and women had followed her, across impossible distances, through battles that should have killed them all. Now she was asking them to make the ultimate sacrifice. "All hands," she announced over the ship's communication system. "This is the captain. In 60 seconds, we're going to overload the enemy's superweapon. The explosion will destroy their entire fleet and save the civilians on Cathara Station. It will also destroy us." She paused, her voice growing stronger. "We came from a future where humanity explored the stars and found a galaxy ruled by tyrants. Today we change that future. Today we show every oppressed being in this galaxy that freedom is worth fighting for." The response came immediately from every section of the ship. "Aye, Captain." Dr. Okafor worked frantically at her station, using the ship's advanced computers to hack into the Imperial superweapon. Almost there, Captain. 30 seconds. But before she could complete the overload, something unexpected happened. Lieutenant. Park looked up from her communications station with tears in her eyes. Captain, I'm receiving thousands of transmissions from across the galaxy. The news of our battles has spread. Dozens of star systems are declaring independence from the Empire. The main display showed priority messages from worlds the Empire had conquered centuries ago. The Andraki republics had declared their freedom. The Talon mining colonies had expelled their imperial governors. Even some Zephyrian worlds were joining the rebellion. Captain, Park continued, they're calling us the Liberation Fleet. They think we're the advance force of a massive human armada. Sarah realized what was happening. Their small acts of defiance had sparked something much larger. The galaxy was rising up against its oppressors, inspired by the example of one human ship that refused to surrender. Dr. Okafor, belay the superweapon overload, she ordered. Captain, we don't need to die today. We just need to escape and let the galaxy think we're part of a larger force. But how do we escape 8,000 ships? Sarah smiled for the first time since the battle began. The same way we got here. Dr. Okafor, can you recreate the space-time distortion from our original accident? The science officer checked her readings quickly. Theoretically, yes, but I have no idea where or when it would send us. Anywhere is better than here. Do it. As Dr. Okafor began the complex calculations needed to tear open space-time itself, Sarah broadcast one final message on all Imperial frequencies. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human starship Indomitable. To every world, every species, every individual under Imperial rule, you are not alone anymore. Freedom cannot be destroyed by tyrants. It lives in the heart of everyone brave enough to fight for it. The liberation of this galaxy has begun. Space twisted around the Indomitable as Dr. Okafor's experimental drive activated. Reality bent and folded like origami as the human ship vanished from the Cathara system, leaving behind a galaxy in revolution. Emperor Thulmas watched in fury as his prey escaped, but the damage was already done. Across his empire, worlds that had been peaceful for centuries erupted in rebellion. His military was stretched thin, trying to contain uprisings on 1,000 different worlds. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled unopposed for 3 millennia, began to crumble as its subjects remembered what freedom felt like. Years later, when the last Imperial forces had been driven from the galaxy, historians would debate whether the humans of the Indomitable were real or just legend. Some claimed they were time travelers from the future. Others insisted they were advanced aliens who chose to help the oppressed. But in the end, it didn't matter where they came from or where they went. What mattered was that they had shown the galaxy something it had almost forgotten, that one small group of people fighting for what was right could change the fate of billions. Captain Sarah Chen's final log entry, recovered centuries later from a damaged Imperial database, read simply, "We came looking for new worlds to explore. Instead, we found an old galaxy that needed to remember what freedom looks like. Mission accomplished."